Whereas I, despite what some of my critics are saying, have talked about the prosperity gospel in all different kinds of churches, led by all different kinds of teachers. A response that I keep hearing, and that he said himself, is that, what about this white teacher? What about that white teacher? Yeah, 99.9% of the time that I am talking about the prosperity gospel, I am talking about pastors who happen to be white.
What? Grenade.
Recently, Alllie Beth Stuckey responded to some of the pushback she received from comments on her broadcast back in March 11th. For those who are critical thinkers, and moreover those who allow their biblical worldview to permeate every area of their lives, what Alllie Beth Stuckey and Melissa Dougherty said was not problematic. Here is a replay of the comments.
This seems to be especially prevalent in majority Black churches.
Oh.
There's a lot of prosperity preaching, but a lot of, as you're talking, I'm like, I've heard that a lot. You are divine. You are a queen.
Yeah.
You are, a goddess, something special. And
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if you've ever talked about the roots of that or why that is.
It's interesting you bring that up. That is a controversial question, especially today's political climate.
Is she going to say it?
Say what?
You shut up. Listen, she's going to say the word.
But I guarantee there's a lot of people watching that are like, Allie's not wrong, you know? There's something there. And I was reading Kate Bowler's book. Do you know who that is? Yeah. And there's a whole section on this that she talks about with the Black church and the prosperity gospel and all these other theologies that kind of entered into the Black church. I mean, Carlton Pearson is one of them. Carlton Pearson was a Pentecostal Word of Faith preacher, Reverend Ike. And both of them were very off when it came to a lot of their teachings. That's like an origin there in that regard. I haven't looked too much into it, but you're not wrong.
And now the plot thickens.
I started getting some random messages on Instagram, though, from people who didn't follow me, maybe a week or so after that episode came out, saying, basically, where do you get off on saying that the prosperity gospel is in the majority of Black churches? That's what I kept hearing, that you said the majority of Black churches preach the prosperity gospel, which is not what I said, but I just ignored it. I didn't think anything of it, but I did. Usually when that happens, when I keep getting the same almost verbatim message over and over again from people who don't follow me, it means that someone fairly influential posted something about something I said, and that's going around, and that's causing people to message me, to find my page and message me about it. So I knew that was a possibility, but I didn't look into it. And then I kept getting messages about it. And then Melissa Dougherty sent me a message saying, you know, that our little segment has really caused a scuffle. Like, people are upset about this. And I didn't know where it started. But as soon as I heard that, I was like, I bet I know exactly who said something about it.
I wonder who.
So I went to this person's page and I was immediately verified. This was on X. I actually originally saw it on Facebook, but this is Pastor Eric Mason. Now, some of you might know him from his really good work on fatherhood, and he's got some other really good theological resources that he's written over the years, but he's also the author of Woke Church, and we'll get into that a little bit in a second. He's a pastor of Epiphany Fellowship Church in Philadelphia, and here's his post. I just watched a clip with two white women saying that the majority of Black churches are prosperity churches and theologically unsound. Didn't say that. A Black YouTuber, he's talking about someone named Corey Minor, and I'll get to his video in a second. A Black YouTuber that mainly posts critique videos agrees. What are your thoughts? Also, give a list of biblically solid Black churches and pastors below. Video response coming soon. If you do an etymology of the prosperity movement, which Preach Damon, that's handled, did in our book on urban apologetics, you'd see that it began and was spread by whites for the last 100 years. This type of stuff makes me angry.
Unlike the comment that Dr. Eric Mason posted on Facebook, the comment here that he posted on X has a second paragraph. The allegation that white people invented the prosperity gospel does not deal with all of history. The advent of prosperity gospel preaching, however, has a very complex history.
Y'all pray for me because I get in the flesh and want to say unwholesome things. Yikes. What does that mean?
It would appear that Allie Beth Stuckey has a healthy attitude about online criticism.
I don't feel attacked by people publicly disagreeing with things that I publicly say. People have a right to do that, and I can actually appreciate it when it's done in a respectful way. When he says this is not divisive, well, by pointing out the color of our skin, that is divisive. I mean, saying that the melanin count of the people who said it is what makes it, part of what makes it controversial. Yeah, I mean, that is, you're purposely trying to draw lines there. Whereas I, despite what some of my critics are saying, have talked about the prosperity gospel in all different kinds of churches, led by all different kinds of teachers. A response that I keep hearing, and that he said himself, is that, what about this white teacher? What about that white teacher? Yeah, 99.9% of the time that I am talking about the prosperity gospel, I am talking about pastors who happen to be white.
Days prior to Allie Beth Stuckey's response here, Dr. Eric Mason mentions that Melissa Dougherty actually repented, that she was broken by the comments that she says.
Also, I talked to Melissa. Shout out to Alan Parr for setting us up to talk to each other. I just talked to her, just like literally got off the phone with her like an hour ago or so, or for maybe 45 minutes ago. We had a pretty lengthy 45-minute discussion, and and talking to her, and she was, from Alan's perspective, said she's pretty broken about the comment and repented for it and wanted to make things right with me. I talked with her and I said, I think it's good if, because it was a public comment, you should probably, communicate publicly to deal with the issue because it was made publicly. And
Right.
Pertaining to the part where he said that Melissa Dougherty reached out to him and apologized and was broken over it. I talked to Melissa about this privately, and I wasn't going to share her thoughts publicly because it was a private conversation. But I will say that she was very annoyed by how Eric Mason was representing their conversation. She was connected through a good friend. She thought, okay, this might be a way to reconcile. Maybe we can better understand each other. She was simply trying to do the right thing and also honor their mutual friend by having a conversation with a brother in Christ about their apparent disagreement, but how he represented it, that she was repentant, that she was broken over it, that she apologized, she says is not true. And this is not just based on our private conversation, but what she said publicly too. She did say this on X, and I just appreciated it. She said, "Hi, everyone. It appears there's been a bit of a scuttle on how the conversation with Eric Mason and I went down. Yes, we did have a conversation. I'm thankful that we had that time to talk because I felt that addressing things privately was both a respectful and biblical approach. But it seems we definitely have a different interpretation of how this conversation went. I won't be responding to any comments here. I stand by the comments I said on Conserve Malin. A person's skin color doesn't determine whether they can know truth or call out terrible and heretical theology." And so that's what she said there. She says that she stands by her comments.
My white brothers and sisters in the Christ, you don't need permission from black folks to speak the truth. The days of shaming and bullying are over.
Many believe, unfortunately, that you have to be a certain skin color to ask certain questions or say certain things, and I'm just telling you that that's not true, that white people do not need permission to say things or ask things, and Christians can be concerned with all different aspects and manifestations of false teaching, no matter the demographics of the churches that they are talking about. We don't need permission to that. We don't need to be invited into that conversation. We can just say it. Okay, this is not 2020. That finger wagging and manipulation doesn't work around here. And I encourage all of you out there to take that same position.
Race is not where the line is drawn. It's God's side and the other side. And we don't care nothing about the other side.